Just over a year ago, Amazfit released the T-Rex 3, and in my review back then I described it as a good alternative to the much more expensive Garmin Fenix 8, despite its rather low price of just under $300. And now both manufacturers have released their respective Pro versions. So here we are with the new Amazfit T-Rex 3 Pro, which has gone up by $100 in price, but at just under $400 it is still very affordable for what it can do. I have put the watch through its paces, I did a 250-kilometer bike tour, tracked all of my workouts in general and just wore it 24/7. In this video I will show you all of the new features as well as all of its pros and cons. At the same time I've also tested the brand new Garmin Fenix 8 Pro, so in this video I will also point out many similarities and differences between these two watches. So as always we have a lot to discuss, so let's get started right away. Have fun! First of all, the watch now comes in not just one but two different sizes, 44 and 48mm. This is something I've criticized a little about the non-Pro version. While the watch fit my wrist well, it was quite bulky for people with smaller wrists. That's why the T-Rex 3 Pro now also comes in a smaller 44mm version, or more precisely, it will be added at the end of September. However, the watch has gotten a bit thicker from 13.75mm to 14mm. On the smaller model, it's 13.2mm. That's hardly noticeable though. The watch is still not the thinnest, roughly on the same level as the Garmin Fenix 8. In general, unlike the Amazfit Balance 2, the Amazfit T-Rex 3 Pro is mainly aimed at outdoor athletes. The watch is also extremely high quality and rugged. The bezel and buttons are now made of titanium and the display is protected by a sapphire glass. Titanium is even more durable than stainless steel, which was used on the regular T-Rex 3. At the same time, it's noticeably lighter. While the T-Rex 3 weighed around 68 grams without the strap, the T-Rex 3 Pro now only weighs 52 grams or just under 47 grams in the smaller version. So overall the watch feels more premium, but in my opinion is also more comfortable to wear. I personally have the larger 48mm version here, which still has the typical 8-sided case design. The smaller 44mm version, however, has slightly rounder corners, elongated buttons instead of round runs, and doesn't feature visible screws. I don't have this smaller version myself yet because it will only be released at the end of September, so I'm basing this on the website's images. And based on these images, I think the smaller version will be more appealing for many people because it looks more lifestyle oriented rather than a rugged outdoor watch. In terms of colors, you can choose between tactical black, the one I went with, and black gold. The smaller version will also come in a gold gray option. The display is still a 1.5-inch full-color AMOLED display, which is actually larger than that of the bigger 51mm Garmin Fenix 8. The display on the smaller 44mm T-Rex 3 Pro measures 1.32 inches. But most importantly, the Pro version's display has become even brighter, from a maximum brightness of up to 2000 nits to now up to 3000 nits, putting it on par with the Apple Watch Ultra 3, which, like the Fenix 8, is also much more expensive. That said, the difference between 2000 nits and 3000 nits sounds more dramatic or significant than it actually is. The T-Rex 3 Pro's display is definitely a bit brighter than the non-Pro version, but that one was already excellent. I noticed the difference most when looking at the display from an angle. It's more readable now. Another new addition to the T-Rex 3 Pro is the built-in flashlight. Garmin likely served as inspiration here, since they've included this feature on many of their watches in recent years. Typical smartwatches like the Apple Watch, Galaxy Watch, Pixel Watch and so on usually just offer a flashlight function where the screen turns bright red. But with the T-Rex 3 Pro there is now a real physical LED flashlight built into the case, and I can't emphasize enough how useful this feature is. It's one of those features that you don't really appreciate until you've used it yourself. I can only say that I'm very happy that the T-Rex 3 Pro now also comes with a built-in flashlight, as this was actually one of the reasons I would often reach for the Fenix 8 rather than the T-Rex 3 in many situations, up until now. The flashlight offers two different colors, including a red light as well as a so-called boost mode that makes it even brighter, up to 300 lux to be precise. The flashlight can also be used to send an SOS signal. So what about new health and fitness features? First up we have the new BioCharge score, which we already know from the Amazfit Balance 2 or the Amazfit Helio strap, but which wasn't available on the T-Rex 3 until now. The biocharge score is a value between 0 and 100 that indicates how ready you are for the day or how your body energy looks. It's meant to help you understand how your energy levels develop throughout the day. After a restful night, for example, the biocharge score is charged and then adapts to your daily workouts, stress levels and recovery phases as the day goes on. Intense workouts or high stress levels make the score drop, while plenty of recovery helps it rise again. Especially at night while sleeping, your body's energy reserves are replenished. The biocharge values generally matched quite well with the body battery on my Garmin Fenix 8, so these aren't just random numbers, they are quite plausible. Of course, there's also a detailed sleep analysis with all the key data such as sleep quality, sleep stages, resting heart rate variability, breathing, and so on. Daytime naps are tracked as well. As expected, data such as the heart rate is tracked 24/7 along with stress levels, skin temperature and blood oxygen saturation. Two things that are still missing on the T-Rex 3 Pro is an ECG feature as well as blood pressure monitoring. For training, you can choose from over 180 different sport modes, including many different running modes, cycling modes, swimming modes, indoor workouts, and much more. New sports include trail running and rucking, where you can set your backpack rate, for example, when hiking. The watch also offers 10 ATM water resistance, and free diving down to 45 meters is said to be possible as well. In strength training, exercises and repetitions can be automatically detected. This worked very well for me with classic exercises like bench press, but not so much with more unusual exercises. Those can be adjusted afterward. The tracked repetitions were surprisingly accurate. After a workout, you can also see the muscles you trained. During a workout, all the classic metrics like pace and heart rate can of course be recorded, but also some more advanced data. Here, for example, you can see a workout session in the app after it had been recorded with the watch. We see a summary of all the tracked data, for running for instance, lots of graphs for pace, heart rate zones, and even running power in watts. The watch can also capture cadence, stride length, vertical oscillation and ground contact time, and it can calculate both aerobic and anaerobic training effects. You can view your training load and get a suggested recovery time. For training analysis, there is also an effort tool, so here at the top you see your daily load with a short description, today's activities and a training suggestion for the day. Further down you'll find additional training analysis tools divided into fatigue level and fitness level. Fatigue level is essentially your acute training load. This compares today's training load with your average of the last 7 days. Fitness level, on the other hand, is the chronic training load. From these two values, the training stress balance is calculated, which shows you how well your body is adapting to training. This value is the difference between the chronic load and acute load. But everything is also explained again in the app. At the very bottom of the daily overview, you'll also find your weight, which you can enter and update manually, your BMI, body fat percentage, and muscle mass. You can also view your VO2 max. And speaking of that, I actually had my VO2 max tested in a lab recently, and there will be a big dedicated video on that soon. But I can already say that Amazfit's VO2 max estimation was pretty accurate. There is also an option to expand the app with Zap Aura. This is essentially a premium sleep tool that provides even more detailed sleep analysis, an AI-powered sleep coach, as well as sleep music, meditations, and more. This is a subscription, however, and personally I don't need it, so I haven't tested it in depth. Some songs and background sounds are available for free as well, and as mentioned, the rest of the app, meaning the vast majority, is free anyway. Through the app you can also download additional watch faces for free, and there is a small app store where you can install add-ons for the watch. Overall, many of the new features of the Amazfit Balance 2 have been carried over to the T-Rex 3 Pro, especially the new biocharge score. And considering all this, the variety and depth of training features is very remarkable, especially for a watch for under $400. A new feature is that the watch now doesn't only come with a microphone like the T-Rex 3, but also includes a built-in speaker, and this means that you can now also make phone calls with the watch. The watch itself can play sounds and audio and therefore music as well. You can even store music directly on the watch with 32 GB of storage available. One drawback, however, is that you cannot use music streaming services such as Spotify on the watch. You are limited to MP3 files that you load onto it yourself. In addition, Amazfit doesn't offer an LTE option here, unlike the Apple Watch or the brand new Fenix 8 Pro from Garmin, for example. So when you want to use an internet connection, you are dependent on a paired smartphone. The watch itself cannot establish its own internet connection. What's nice is that Amazfit provides its own voice assistant called Zapflow, which is powered by ChatGPT. With this you can ask normal questions but also control the watch, for example adjusting the volume or starting a workout. In my experience the Zapflow assistant is super responsive and fast, and overall I would say it's better than most other smart assistants found on other watches. We also see some very exciting innovations when it comes to navigation. As with the non-pro version, you can load routes onto the watch and navigate using offline topographic maps. In addition to basic maps, you also get contour maps and ski resort maps. Even better, you can now search for points of interest directly on the watch, create routes nearby, and your routes will automatically adjust if you stray off course. This means the watch now supports true routing, which until now was something almost exclusive to Garmin, so it's still not available on Polar, Coros or Suunto. This means you no longer need to pre-plan a fixed route and load it onto the watch. The T-Rex 3 Pro can suggest and even generate routes for you, whether to a specific destination or as a circular route around your current location. This can be especially useful when you are in an unfamiliar area. These new navigation features are a huge leap forward. One minor drawback though is that these navigation functions are currently only available in the Maps app and not in the navigation menu of the training mode, but hopefully this will be added via a future update. As for GPS, dual band technology is still built in and 6 satellite positioning systems are supported. And in my experience the watch was also very accurate in this regard. I did a cycling tour through Austria, Slovakia and Hungary, and the watch didn't cut any corners and just stayed well on the correct route. I also recorded this tour with my Garmin Fenix 8 Pro and the Suunto Race 2, and the recorded routes hardly differed. Even in dense forests the watch performs very well and doesn't show any major deviations. So based on my experience, the GPS accuracy is definitely very good. When it comes to the sensor on the back of the case, nothing has changed compared to the non-pro version. The BioTracker 6.0 is still being used here. And in my experience the watch is once again accurate in this regard. Here you can see the comparison with a chest strap during one of my running sessions. The watch took a few seconds longer to register the quick rise in heart rate at the beginning, which doesn't really matter, and then it was very accurate. The average heart rate just differed by less than 1 beat per minute compared to the chest strap. Even during my roughly 14-hour bike ride, the Amazfit T-Rex 3 Pro was very accurate. Of course, that's a lot of data, which makes the graphs look a bit different here, but if we zoom in we can clearly see that there were hardly any deviations between the watch and the chest strap. However, during strength training there were indeed deviations, which is simply because this type of activity is much more difficult to track. That's why almost all watches and trackers struggle with this, but the T-Rex 3 Pro really did a very good job. As mentioned, there were differences compared to the chest strap, but the measurement was significantly more accurate for me than with most competitors. The average heart rate differed by about 5 beats per minute. Finally, let's talk about battery life. This has always been one of the major strengths of all Amazfit watches, and the Amazfit T-Rex 3 Pro continues that tradition, even if battery life has taken a slight step back compared to the non-pro version. With typical use, the watch now lasts up to 25 days instead of 27 days. I think most of us can live with that, especially since it's still an incredible runtime. For the smaller 44mm version, Amazfit states up to 17 days. With heavy usage, which definitely applies to me, it lasts up to 10 or up to 8 days. When using dual-band GNSS during outdoor activities, the larger T-Rex 3 Pro lasts up to 38 hours compared to 42 hours previously, while the smaller version lasts up to 29 hours. In general, Amazfit lists many different values on its website for different usage scenarios. For me, the watch lasts about 8 days so far, but I would also describe my usage as very intense. During my roughly 14-hour bike ride, the watch lost about 45% of its battery, which means it would last around 30 hours. I used dual band, and since we were also on the road a lot in the dark, the flashlight was frequently in use as well. On top of that, I was also using navigation, so it could hardly have been used more intensively. Normally, I think you should easily get 10 to 12 days of runtime with the T-Rex 3 Pro, even with heavy usage, and for most people, runtimes beyond 20 days will certainly be possible as well. Alright, so what can we conclude on the new Amazfit T-Rex 3 Pro? Personally, I'm just thrilled with what Amazfit has offered in recent years, and this also applies to the new T-Rex 3 Pro. And to be clear, I'm in no way sponsored by Amazfit, I can just give you my personal unbiased opinion, and this is that the watch is once again very remarkable. For under $400, the T-Rex 3 Pro offers so much of what you get with the Garmin Fenix 8 that costs nearly 3 times as much, or an Apple Watch Ultra 3 that costs about twice as much. And unlike many other manufacturers who add only minimal changes from year to year, here the Pro label in the name really does feel justified. The watch is significantly more robust and premium thanks to the titanium and sapphire glass, yet lighter and more comfortable to wear. The display is brighter and better, we now have the new biocharge score, a built-in flashlight, a speaker that also enables Bluetooth calls, and most importantly, the watch is for the first time a true Garmin alternative when it comes to routing, unlocking many exciting navigation features. To be clear, the watch still has its weaknesses. There is still no ECG or blood pressure measurement, no built-in LTE, and some smart features feel a little unfinished. But honestly, for just under $400, I really don't think there is much to complain about. In a world where sports watches, smartwatches and fitness trackers keep getting more and more expensive, and the recently released Garmin Fenix 8 Pro Micro LED nearly hit the $2,000 mark, it's just refreshing to see that there are still manufacturers taking different approaches. Overall, I truly think the Amazfit T-Rex 3 Pro offers one of the best price-performance ratios on the market. So in the end, it may not be the so-called Garmin Fenix 8 killer, but for 90% of people, it's certainly a very solid Fenix 8 alternative. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think about the new Amazfit T-Rex 3 Pro. If you found this video helpful or interesting, you could really support me and my work here by giving this video a quick thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss any future reviews or comparison videos, you should definitely subscribe to this channel. But for now, thanks a lot for watching and see you in the next one.